Let's talk about your relationship with fashion and how your journey in fashion has started.
I don't know where to start. There's just so much.
Let's start from the beginning.
There's your appearance, other flaws such as sexual appeal. Personally, don't feel comfortable doing that. I feel like if any model experienced that, then they shouldn't be scared to take legal action. Who would have thought a pregnant lady could walk a runway?
Who could think that some pregnant lady could buy the clothes, right?
And I will speak on that in the future, and because I do plan on being that voice as well. Like, that's why I'm here today. A designer called Wesley Harriott. Why can they not just put it on black skin so that I can go home and trust that that will look good on me?
How did that affect your self-esteem?
It didn't make me feel good.
What do you needed then?
We needed a variety. They're not realizing that so much has changed.
Do you know what it leads us to? Starting to get a shape. Hey everyone, it's Vinna here and you're watching Women Friendly Fashion TV, the place where the real voices of fashion come together. I'm so excited about today's guest. She is legal advisor, she is fashion designer, passionate hairstylist, and ecstatic advocate for women equality and diversity in fashion. She is only 22 and she believes that life has no limits. I can't wait for you to see her. Welcome, Kady Chrystelle. Kady, so excited to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being our first guest. Let's talk about your relationship with fashion and how your journey in fashion has started.
So I love fashion. I feel like it's a way of expressing yourself. It's art. Fashion can be expressed in many ways. It could be expressed in art, clothing, makeup, hair, anything that's trendy, it doesn't even have to be trendy, it could be your own sense of fashion. How I discovered fashion and how my relationship kind of grew with fashion is that when I was younger, a lot of people used to say, Kady, you're so tall, you should be a model. I was thinking, what does that have to do with anything? Like, I didn't really understand that world, what modeling was. I just thought models were posers. So when I started looking into it, I actually found that models are more than just posers. They're not just, a puppet. They are a form of expression, a form of, they express the designer's art. So the designer can make an outfit and they can put it on the model, and that model has to know how to express that outfit, if that makes sense. So I really enjoy fashion and I love expressing my expressions through fashion as well.
Just as you said, you find out about fashion, you find out the model, what is the modeling is about. But then how it did transform when you was teenager and up to these years. How do you find it now? How it was in back days and how do you find it now? What's the difference? So the first time I became intrigued into modeling, I didn't know how to, because a lot of people say, oh, you should do this, but they never actually tell you what you should do. So I believe I came across a modeling agency who had a studio, and they took, and when I say modeling agency, I mean a scam agency. So we actually got scammed, my parents and I. We went to a studio, they took pictures of me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love posing, I love taking pictures. And then at the end of it, they asked for a large sum of money. I think it was about $1,000. Really?
Yeah, like literally so much. And my mum is, she's very traditional. She doesn't know much about the fashion industry, but she always lives to see me happy and my dream fulfilled. So she just went along with it. At first, she was just like, no, that's too much. I don't want to pay for it. We went home, we spoke about it. I somehow tricked her into thinking that it was okay. Instead of us to do our research, we just went along with it. And I guess that's where we went wrong, because I feel like a lot of people
the younger generation, especially when they want to be a model, they don't see what comes behind it and what you have to do to be a model. And they just think, yeah, I'll just go with this. And there's a lot of scammers out there. There's a lot of people who want to just rip you off and not explain how the industry works. So yeah, so after I got scammed, I then started researching how I should actually become a model, and someone told me about StarNow, and it's a platform where you pay a fee, however you get exposed to a lot of opportunities. And I guess through that I started finding castings, and I came across a modeling agency who then wanted to, you know, guide me and take me to castings, and that was good. So it went from thinking that the modeling industry is just a scam to, okay, I can actually build myself in this industry, I can become a better model. And now, I don't know, I feel quite indifferent about it. I do love it, but I feel like it's very flawed. I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. There's been changes over the years, however, there's still so much that needs to change in the industry. So yeah, right now I'm like in that I love the industry, but I want to see it change.
Well, that is really interesting. Look, you mentioned when you had this scam experience, and from thinking the model needs to be just pretty and tall, you said model needs to be more than that. So can you just talk a little bit like more? What is that more?
Right. So I feel like models need to speak. They need to have a voice. It's not just about looking pretty and being tall and just walking down the runway. It's about having a voice. If you see something that's not right, you need to speak on it. You need to educate people. Because the reason why people were getting scammed so well before and still now is because no one speaks on it. No one says, hey, you need to watch out for these agencies. And I have now, since then, come across so many pages that say, hey, watch out for this agency, they're a scam, watch out for this agency. Even the other day, there was an agency that wanted to contact me, and they said that I should pay an administration fee. And a lot of people don't know that you shouldn't have to pay an administration fee. So it's things like that people need to be made aware of. So I feel like models, they're doing great. It's lovely to be tall and beautiful, but you should also have a voice and never be scared to speak out, really.
Well, again, probably that brings us back to identity. Term. What is to be a real, authentic you? It's not like only, you know, having like the body outfit, but also like having like internal point of view. Having a voice to say when something is wrong or something is right. So I think this is really, really important. Kady, you have mentioned the flaws in the fashion industry, in the modeling industry. Would you mind tell us a little bit more about that? What is happening behind the scenes? Because I think most of the our viewers and most of the public people, they think modeling industry is what we see, the picture in front of the camera, but what's happening behind the camera, behind the curtains. So would you like to walk us through a little bit?
I don't know where to start. There's just so much.
Let's start from the beginning.
There's literally so much. There's your appearance, how models starve themselves, models feel like they have to be a certain weight, which
But is it dictated by the agency what is the weight should be, what is the how they should look like, or they just starving themselves, like, you know, oh, I saw in magazines the skinny models, so I assume this is how it should be.
When I first came across an agency, they told me that I have to eat healthy and maybe not gym, but do yoga. They weren't really strict on how I looked. Maybe it was because I was already something that they would go for. But I can't imagine them seeing maybe someone who is bigger than me. I can't imagine them.
How big you are.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect, because you hear stories. I had a friend who went for a casting, and she said that they lined the models up from skinniest to the biggest.
Yeah.
And she was the biggest one, and she's skinnier than me.
No
Yeah.
way.
So it was just like, so you hear stories like that, and you start thinking, so maybe if I get skinnier, maybe that I'll get more castings, or maybe so it's sort of, I feel like it's not really what the agency says, but it's a lot of word of mouth.
Internal kind of
it's like
self-determination that I'm not good enough and this is how I should be, rather than like, this is the industry what needs.
Literally, I feel like it's an unspoken rule that you have to be a certain size to be, you know, a good model. You look at all of these catwalks, all of these shows, and you don't see a big plus size person on there. And I say plus size because realistically, there shouldn't be a plus size.
Size 10, no?
Yeah, exactly. We shouldn't be categorizing sizes. Whatever size you are, that is your size. You can't say mini size or plus size, and I feel like that in itself is a flaw. And then there's other flaws such as sexual appeal. I remember there was a photographer who I wanted to work with, and his work was amazing. But for some reason, he wanted me to do like an implied nude shoot. And I personally don't feel comfortable doing that. So I explained that to him, and he consistently wanted me to...
You wanted to enforce you to doing this.
And I was just like...
So what happened?
I just kept on. I said, you know, I had to keep professional. I had to stay professional and just express to him that I'm not comfortable doing that. Your work is amazing. I would love to work with you. However, if you're not willing to work with me without having to do implied nude or a nude shoot, then I'm not really interested. And I never heard from him again, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I feel like there's a lot of other models who maybe would have felt like, oh, I really want to do a shoot with him, and he wants me to do that, so maybe I should just... And you don't stick to your guns, and I feel like it's really important to just stick to your guns, and also make it aware to other people that this photographer or this person is doing this.
Well, did you see what happened here? In this situation, when you were trying to act professional, he wasn't acting professional by forcing you to do something that you didn't want to do or wasn't ready of doing it, right? So did you bring up this to your agency, or who put in touch you with that photographer?
It was actually myself. I was freelancing at the time, so I went on I think I went on modelmanagement.com. It was a website, and to be fair, he does do implied nude shoots, but he also does other shoots, and I guess at the time he just wanted to do an implied nude shoot, so he probably found his model. But I just didn't want to do it, and I will speak on that in the future, and because I do plan on being that voice as well. Like, that's why I'm here today, to ensure that other people don't fall into this trap.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can actually Google or find on YouTube or any other resources that this is how models, they think they're gonna start their career. So even the young girls that actually have no experience, and it's good to have this conversation with you today, that when they go into modeling, that they don't have to take their clothes off to get a job, because a particular thing, whilst photographer might want to see you nude or make a pictures for his portfolio or for any client, I think this is important that you are feeling comfortable and you're giving your okay to be modeling for that. But if you're not feeling okay, you shouldn't be doing this, because that's already going against the will, and there's other stuff could be involved. What kind of other frauds Did you see? Did you experience, or did you see, or your friends have?
Pay as well.
Pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of a lot of work now is time for print, which I understand. There's a lot of times where you have to collaborate, and you have to. I guess you have to balance whether it will benefit you or not. If it won't benefit you, then time for print is.
So what do you mean by that? Maybe somebody doesn't know what does.
So time for print is when you go for a shoot, and they, in order for your time, they will provide you with prints. So they'll provide you with portfolio, your pictures. So you need to just make sure that you're connecting with photographers and it's worth doing a time for print. If it's a photographer who's just starting out and their pictures or that they produce at the end of it's not good enough for your portfolio, you've wasted your time. And it's unfair for the model because they would think that the photographer is, going to produce them with great work, and at the end of it's not much work. Or I've had some other friends, personally I haven't experienced this, but some other friends have done some work, they've been promised a certain amount of fee for their work and they haven't been paid that, and it's a bit of a piss take for models to just work. And
well, it's not only for models, for any kind of
exactly, for to just you're giving your time, so you expect to be paid for that time, and sometimes that doesn't happen. So
is it happen when the girls are sent through agency, or they just got in touch directly with
both?
Even through the agencies this happen.
So
do you go back to agency and say, hey, I'm having an issue, pay issue, or a print issue?
I would imagine if it was to ever happen to me, I would take legal action against the agency. And where you have a contract and an agreement that says I will, but even if it's not a written contract and it's an email that agrees, okay, I'll pay you this amount for that time, then that is something you can legally enforce, and you can tell them legally you are obliged to pay me. So I feel like if any model has experienced that, then they shouldn't be scared to take legal action because they are owed an amount. So.
That is really good to hear, and I think it's really important that we're having this conversation just to bring a little bit of behind the curtains, not behind the scenes, like beautiful this like wiggly pictures, but I think there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make the industry as friendly as possible to everyone. How do you think is important for the industry to realign itself as socially conscious, socially responsible, and woman friendly?
I feel like everyone's responsible. Real people are responsible, and that means everyone. I can't put my finger on who needs to do it, just because there's so many bodies. There's celebrities, there's our parents, people that are close to us who influence us. It's just influencers, really. And I feel like celebrities are starting to do it a bit more now. Rihanna, I don't know if you've seen her latest catwalk show. She had a pregnant lady there. She had larger size women, skinny women, dark skinned women. She had all types of women and on her runway. And that's amazing, because who would have thought a pregnant lady could walk a runway?
Who could think that some pregnant lady could buy the clothes, right?
Literally. Exactly. So it's all about consumerism. Back in the day, we thought that it's better to have a white lady with blonde hair to be the advert, to be the person who promotes stuff, because that is what will attract people to buy it. But now, all types of women are on covers, because we have started to realize that all types of people buy things, all types of people are consumers. So it's unfair to put one type of ideal model on, a cover of Vogue, because at the end of the day, we are all consumers. We all buy magazines, we all buy products that we need in the household, hair dyes. There's even with that,
hair dyes. I went into a shop the other day to buy some hair dye, and on the L'Oreal packages there was no black ladies on there. None whatsoever. But I'm buying
I think it's a good thing. Maybe we could just do some follow-up, you know, video show, just to go to the shop and actually see what's happening in reality, what kind of like ads we see, what kind of packaging we see. I think it's a really, really fair point, because the dyes are sold to all women, regardless ethnicity, ability, background, anything, right? But for some kind of reason, you have one particular type of woman presenting a brand. That is really interesting thing. So maybe we can do some follow up. Also, have you seen in terms of diversity of abilities in fashion industry? Because if we're going back to real life, we could see all kinds of women, all kinds of people around us with different kind of abilities. Some of them, they may be visible, some of them not. Have you experienced, have you seen what's happening actually during the castings, what designers are picking? Are they actually mindful of addressing, my customers, regardless their ability, they are my customers, or they like choosing really particular type of model?
So there's castings that I come across all the time that I like the look of the casting. It says, oh, model needed for this day, this time, blah, blah, blah. I'll read all of it, everything. And then at the end it will say Caucasian only. And then I'll be like, well, can't really apply for that, can I? And it's just like, I don't know, maybe they've already found their black model that they need, but like you said earlier, it's like a quota. It's like what they want to, you know, tick the box and say, we've got our black model, we've got our disabled model, we've got our old model. They don't just have a casting and pick whoever they see fit. They don't do that. Instead, they just want to tick boxes to see, to show that they have, you know, had a certain amount of models.
Kady, you have mentioned, you know, really good example with the hair dyes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have one particular image of look, of identity. Whilst the customers are really like a really wide audience of different backgrounds, different origins, and etc., etc. So how do you think that one image, let's say you have white, Caucasian, or any other particular woman image on the packaging, affects the self-esteem of the customer itself? How do you think that resonates from the brand perspective to its audience and backwards audience to the brand?
I feel like it feels quite disappointing. It's in this day and age, you feel like where there's so many diverse foundations now, and so many brands promoting diversity, there's still brands out there like hair dyes that don't want to budge. It's really weird. It's like you're seeing everyone else, all the other brands change, and you're still trying to be traditional. What's going on? Me personally, I always like to just there's like Asian and African hair shops that do products for Afro-Caribbean hair, and I do like going there, but sometimes they don't have the hair dyes that I need. There's, you know, sometimes we make wigs, or we make we change our hair color, and we want to go blonde or a brown, and we would like to go to, you know, a drugstore to find a hair dye. And sometimes I would like to see how the hair color would suit my skin tone, but on the packaging it's on a white lady, so I can't envision and I can't see in my head how
relate.
it would look on me.
You can't just relate.
Literally, so it makes me feel disappointed that why can they not just put it on black skin so that I can, you know, I can pick it up and I can go home and trust that will look good on me, because I can't tell what will suit my skin tone from a different skin tone. So it's disappointing, really.
Let's go back a little bit into your younger years. Whilst we discuss now, you're adult, you're going to the drugstore, you can see someone representing yourself. Yeah. It feels disappointing. But how did you feel those days when you couldn't actually, you know, think rational, okay, this is the brand fault, it's not my fault, but actually how the similar situations that you were facing when you was younger, how did it make you feel?
I can't remember. I feel like I still felt disappointed, and that's why it's so frustrating, because that disappointment that I felt when I was younger hasn't changed, and there should have been a change by now. A lot of my
friends,
a lot of my friends, when we went to drugstores to get makeup, we were all the same skin. We're not the same skin tone, but we all bought the same foundation. And it was really weird, because there was two, I think, I can't remember what it's, Dream Matte Mousse. Dream Matte Mousse. I think it's Rimmel or one of those brands, a drugstore brand anyway. And every black girl was one of two shades. Every black girl used one of the two shades. So it was like, if you were darker, you would use the other shade. If you were lighter, you'd use the lighter shade. And my skin tone, funny enough, was in between the two. So I'd either be too light or too dark for one. So the darker, I think I went with the darker one, and I'd look darker all the time. So it was frustrating, because white girls looked lovely with their makeup. It was their skin tone, it looked great on them. But with the black girls who couldn't afford the big Macs and the bigger brands at the time, the branded makeup, we had to go to the drugstore, and we had two options out of in the whole store. So yeah, as a child, it was quite disappointing.
Well, apart from having just a disappointment, what actually could you think about yourself? Like, why they think we are just two type of colors? What is going on? Like, how can you talk a little bit like a different? How did that affect your self-esteem?
It didn't make me feel good, because it just made me feel like, okay, I'll either have to look darker or just not wear makeup.
But not like you are you.
Yeah,
you need to be something different.
Something else, and else. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't join in with fashion. I felt like I couldn't.
You put into
a box, literally. I couldn't
between two shades, no?
So it didn't feel good, and a lot of girls, a lot of dark-skinned girls, they felt like they needed to bleach their skin. So good. Skin lightening.
I heard it's a really, really big and painful kind of I don't know how to call it. It's not, you can't call it experience, but it's a disastrous experience. But can you talk a little bit, maybe not yourself, but maybe you have friends who have bleached their skin just because they thought this is how they should look like.
When it comes to dark-skinned women, it's quite a big issue. A lot of women feel as though
it's an issue, actually.
a lot of women, and I feel like it did come from that era where there was only a few shades for black women. There wasn't enough foundation. They didn't give us enough choice. Now it's great, because foundation like Fenty Beauty are coming out with 40 different shades. But before, back in the day, when customers couldn't find their skin shade, they thought that they had to bleach their skin to get a nicer one. And when you would see adverts and magazines, and you'd see the skin color of a beautiful model, you'd think, oh, she's beautiful, and she has foundation that suits her skin. Maybe I should bleach my skin. Maybe I should look a little lighter. And I've had friends as well that have bleached their skin, and it was quite a stigma. You would go to their houses and you'd see a cream, and you'd be like, hey, isn't that skin lightening cream? And it's sad. It's sad that that's how they felt, and that's how because they couldn't find something that they could use.
Because represent their authentic themselves.
Exactly. They felt like they had to
become someone else.
Is it better now?
It's improved. I can't lie and say that it hasn't, because there's many shades. Even you know, drugstores, you go in now and you see many different shades. There's NYX collection. I went to Superdrugs the other day and I was like, oh, I was surprised myself. I was like, oh, there's a bit more, like there's loads of shades now. But it's sad that it still isn't what we need it to be.
What do you need it then?
We need it to, there needs to be a variety over all of the brands. It can't be just some brands, because
you are limited then.
Yeah, you're limited. You know, you see a brand and you want to try some of their stuff, but then you have to go to another shop to get the foundation there. And
this is my shop. It's kind of like
exactly.
my type of shop, because the regular shop doesn't represent what I need.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, in drugstores it's good because they have different stores, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to choose from different stores. You want to not be limited to just one store and one collection. So I feel like it needs to be all over. Every brand needs to take into consideration that women come in different shades, and if that takes you presenting about 90 different shades of foundations, then do that. Don't narrow us down to 40 shades, because there's not just 40 shades in this world.
Well, this is a really good point, and I think not only from the customer's perspective it's a good thing, but also from the brand perspective. More the brand can satisfy the needs of the customer, more profit they will have. They will be better accepted. They will be promoted by the word of mouth. Even you don't need to put the big investment into advertising, into marketing. Just to get yourself out. Just satisfying the needs of diverse range of customers. I think that this is where the brand needs to go. We've spoken a lot about the probably beauty stuff. If you could fix one thing in the whole fashion industry, what would that be?
I think it would be everyone being open-minded. I feel like the fashion industry is very closed-minded. I feel like they have an old-fashioned view of what an ideal model should look like and what an ideal representation of their brand should look like. And they're not realizing that so much has changed. Society is open to so many things. I saw a casting the other day, and it was, I believe it was a designer called Wesley Harriott, and he had at the bottom of his casting any females. That could be female, I think he said non-binary, which means whatever you identify yourself as. If you identify yourself as a woman, then you are free to apply for this casting. And I felt like that was so good, because it shows you how far we've come in the industry, and how, you know, you can't just say, there's so many people who they find their own identity and they don't want to be constricted by society. And it's important that designers know that and don't try and confine people as well. So when you're having your castings and when you're making your clothes, you need to understand that anyone would want to wear that. Anyone could see what you produce and your art and your fashion and be inspired by it. And it's not fair that because a bigger woman or a lady who doesn't fit your standards can't wear your clothes because you've decided to constrict yourself to just skinny or slim females. So I believe that the industry just needs to be open-minded.
Do you know what it leads us to? And I think that this is something that is just starting to get a shape. I think in the old, because I'm coming from the branding background, these people who work currently in the industry, I think the new talents are coming, and this is really great. but they are still operating with the old-fashioned mind that they read in the marketing books.
Yeah.
Define your audience by saying, what does your client look like?
Yeah.
And this is what I think is a flaw, because eventually the brand wants to sell and gain a profit, which is great. However, by targeting really narrow specific audience, they're not only limiting themselves to be exposed to others, but they're actually socially impacting, and not always in a positive way, other audiences. Exactly. So I think it's a really interesting time that we live in, when potentially the way the brands were built within 80s, 90s, and last 10 years, probably to 20 years ago, I think this is the time for them to reshape the strategies and to start rethinking what is actually their audience. Definitely. Yeah. And as a last thing, I'd like to probably get you to provide the tips for the young girls that's starting in the industry, maybe like a designer, maybe like a model, because you have really diverse actually background and activities you're doing. What would be number one advice for them?
I'd say stay true to yourself. Be yourself at all times. Don't try and be someone else, because there's a market for you. There's always a market for you. There's always space for you in the market. So don't feel like you have to be someone else or you have to look like someone else. Always stick to your guns. And if you ever feel like something's wrong, and we've all got, especially us women, no offense, men, but we all have an intuition. We all have that feeling in us that when something's not right, we know that it's not right. So if you ever feel like, you know, you're not comfortable at any time,
you don't have to do it.
You don't have to ever do something that you don't want to do, and that comes with finding yourself. You know, you don't want to be a yes lady, someone who just says yes to everything. You don't have to do that. And if that photographer is going to be angry with you and they don't want to work with you, then so be it. But at least you've kept your dignity, and you've stuck to your guns. So I'd say always be yourself.
I think this is the very beautiful note that we could end with. Not only being beautiful outside, but also staying true to yourself and having the most beautiful and valuable thing as a dignity. And for women, it's really, really important. Well, thank you so much, Kady, for being with us. Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you. Yeah, thank you so much. The fashion industry is as much about you as it is about those who create it. So tell us, what do you want to see change? Did you like this video? If so, subscribe to our channel, share this with your friends. Be the change you want to see, be the change you want to experience. I'll catch you next time on Woman Friendly Fashion TV.